friends, and welcome to the Future of Gaming. You are listening to our weekly FOGcast. We have the usual crew, Philip Collins, Devin Becker, myself, Nico Vereecke, and today we have a special guest, Matej Lancaric. Matej, I just remembered. So Matej and I, we go way back in podcasting land, like almost 2 years. And I remember the first time I introduced you, I said Matej, and you were like, no, that's Nico, you had one job.
Jesus Christ, yeah. It's always like that. That. And I understand the J at the end is really confusing, but still. So we discussed pre-recording, like, so Matej, yes. And immediately we went into the recording. Oh, hello, this is Matej. Like, Jesus
The stress, man. The stress. I couldn't handle it. Now I'm better. Anyway, so...
No, it's great.
Matej is... When I think of an UA expert, a user acquisition expert, I think of Matej, right?
Nice.
He is well known in the space. He, the reason I like him even more is because he hosts a podcast, right?
Exactly.
So it's called 2.5 Gamers Podcast with Felix and Jakub. They were friendly enough to have me as a guest. We talked about Web3 twice actually. We talked about Web3, and now I'm like, yo, future of gaming. Acquiring users is also important, so why not get Matej on and talk a bit about that? So the goal is to talk about UA, but I've said the goal is to talk about X a lot, and then we talk about Y, so let's see where we end up. I would say maybe first a little bit of news. So we didn't, like last episode, what did we talk about? It's a while ago, right? Oh, with Peyton, I believe. Yes. And I think the Superbowl had just happened, or maybe just not happened before we recorded. But anyway, it happened, and there was a lot of buzz around the Superbowl in Web3 gaming land because our Lord and Savior Gabe Leydon said, yo, I'm going to have an ad for Digidaigaku on the Superbowl, and it's going to bump the price, and I'm going to bring free to own to the whole world. And so what happened, I didn't see this live, but what happened was there was an ad of a very cheap, like Facebook's ad style, like
come
fairies,
on, those are the best. What are you talking about?
And then there's suddenly a QR code, and there's just a QR code.
Yeah.
And if you scan that, I think the 4,000 first ones to scan it or something, the ones that were lucky got to mint something for free, and then all of the others got led to or directed towards the freaking Gabe Leydon's, not even the company's, Gabe Leydon's Twitter profile. And so I'll tell you, I'll give you my hot take from the start, and then you can give yours. Matej, I'd love to have your thoughts. So if I'm an investor, right, we know that the final valuation of the final round for Limit Break was $2 billion. If I give money to a founder and they take 6.5 million of that and they buy an ad on the freaking Super Bowl, and then they use that ad to get people to their own Twitter profile to get more followers, I will be very happy. That's all I'm saying. But what's your take?
Of course, you would be happy. It's that would be the most expensive follower boost campaign ever in the history of Twitter as well. That's what, at least that's what I posted. Now, apparently that NFTs went really out quick, like 2 seconds, and then everybody else was just like forwarded to the Gabe's Twitter account. Amazing. It's just terrible. It's like that money could be used in a very different way, but that's my, let's call it the traditional UA thinking, I guess. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't do it on the Super Bowl at all. But Gabe has a history of Super Bowl ads for the previous company, Machine Zone. They did it multiple times. Kate Upton, then somebody else as well. So I guess he's well positioned to spend that money during Super Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like Gabe's always been known for being incredible at capturing attention. And what you do automatically get from running a Super Bowl ad, regardless of the cost, is purely viewership. And the event had, I think, 113 million viewers is what I saw. And so the theoretical per eyeball cost isn't too bad. I think what I was a little disappointed in is it almost highlighted the problems with Web3 onboarding, where I saw so much confusion around, all right, I scanned the QR code, what next? And so while Gabe definitely got the eyeballs that he really bought, the trope around UA and onboarding for the average player in blockchain gaming being really complicated was almost just furthered. And so I think that was a little bit of a step back. And so while he got the eyeballs, he didn't really get the acquisition of users that I was kind of hoping they'd be able to achieve.
And also, like, a lot of scammers actually popped up immediately. So one of our friends from a Deconstructor fan, Ethan, he got scammed and he just lost the NFT.
Ethan.
Yeah, so there you go.
Poor dude. Yeah. So, Matej, put yourself in the head of Gabe Leydon. What was the goal here? Because it feels like he had hundreds of different possibilities, and he chose this one.
Yeah,
right? Was this laziness, or was this very, very specifically chosen? Very
specifically chosen, I would say. So you can see his communication on Twitter, like the self-esteem, man, it's there. You want to be just build the hype around yourself. You want to be seen, eyeballs, like Phil mentioned. that was all there. So I'm pretty sure that the follower, or like the redirection to his Twitter account was just on purpose. It was like the safest way to go. Even I would actually send players to something else, like website or whatever, maybe even company page. But then he's the face.
Yeah, I guess it's a way of like capturing email addresses, like a new version of that, right? Where like, we don't have the product that you're looking for, so sign up.
Yeah, but then you pay like $200 for a follower. That's fucking expensive. You can do it you can do it more efficiently, for sure.
Yeah. But we've also talked about this in the past, where pre-Super Bowl as well, Gabe has used controversy to stir attention, and so who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe he intentionally wanted there to be this controversy, and some people saying, "Oh, it got so much attention," and some people saying, "Oh, it was terrible," because it actually has continued the conversation for a duration that I think few Super Bowl ads actually are able to achieve. And over, I guess a week later almost, we're still discussing the Limit Break Super Bowl ad. I haven't talked about a single other ad in the Super Bowl for more than an hour.
There was other ads?
Ever. So, yeah.
Yeah. Dude. It's either Limit Break or Rihanna being pregnant. Nothing else. Nothing has happened.
So I didn't even know about Rihanna being pregnant, so thanks for sharing that.
It's because you didn't scan the QR code.
Clearly.
On Twitter. Dude, he actually probably tweeted that next.
Dude, Phil, like, Gabe's in my head, man.
He really is.
He has me.
And he's done that through his Twitter in the past, and that's what makes me think that maybe there's a second level of thinking that he's using here, but he has our attention, and that is valuable in itself.
In gamer speak, we call that a 5-head. The guy's just 9,000 IQ and just way ahead of us. Anyway, good. Enough about Gabe Leydon, and because he's just winning. We're making him.
He bought more airtime with us.
Yeah, exactly. Stop about this. By the way, if you want to have Devin's very in-depth insights, like he's been more silent than you expect from him, you should get on the Navic. It's the Navic Pro.
Yeah, the Navic Pro blockchain for next week. Teaser.
Boom.
That'll come out on Monday. There'll be some more nice details and all the Digiteg crap you could take.
So if you had looked at Devin while we were speaking, you could see some of the veins start growing because there's so much in there that he wants to come out. So that's being found in the Navic Pro blockchain part. Good. On to user acquisition or the future of UA. Matej, why don't you walk us through maybe the current state of Web 2 UA? Because I think that's your expertise, and then we can take it into what this looks like for Web 3 gaming afterwards.
Yeah, so we are already in the stage when everybody's talking about UA is dead. So UA is dead. Thank you very much. Move on. Thank you for listening. We can end the conversation here. Now, jokes aside, obviously this is. The privacy changes happened on iOS, which was a few years back.
Can you quickly elaborate, give us a 1-minute overview of what exactly happened with those privacy changes?
So in the world of UA, you always had an identifier for all the players. So then you could track them, you could see the performance over time, you could do whatever you want with that identifier. This is still happening. This is still available on Google, but it's also moving away. And it was called IDFA, so Identifier for Advertising. So as soon as you bought the player, got into the game, you could see okay, so this one is earning this much money. You could do whatever. Build audiences with this, do retargeting with this ID, multiple different options. So Apple said, okay, fuck off, guys. This is ending here. So let's work on the privacy a little bit more. And then they got rid of the IDFA. So basically now you can't pretty much track the users on the user level. You can do it on the campaign level. You can do it with different like geeky stuff that I don't want to go too much into it, because that would be a different episode as well. So you can use different methodology for this. And since that happened, it basically changed the whole UA on iOS, pretty much because you can only see the first 24 hours of certain player's journey, let's call it that way, and then after 24 hours, you can't see anything basically. So that kind of impacts like how you look at things on UA. You can't say which campaign is more profitable or less profitable, how it is performing. You can say it to a certain extent, but not as before. So that means you need to switch the methodology or the evaluation lenses from deterministic, which is the user level, to kind of probabilistic. So now you kind of are half blind, but it's actually kind of nice, because then the playing field is leveled for everybody, and then you see like who is actually doing the job better and worse, because then you need to adapt to these changes. So you need to look at the first 24 hours. You need to work more closely with game teams, because you need to get as many events from the game to the UA channels as possible to be able to, work on the campaigns and optimize properly. So that was kind of happening before, but now it's like that's important. You need to work with your game team to actually make it happen. If it doesn't happen, then you're screwed. You won't be able to optimize the campaigns properly. So that's one thing. And then if you're a small company, you have a big problem because you don't have the data team, and then it's a mess. It's a mess. But then it comes back to the like very basic equation, CPI versus the LTV, or how much money I spend versus how much money I earn. If you don't have more sophisticated data teams and evaluation processes or whatever LTV models, you just you look how much money you spend, how much money you earn, and then kind of run the UA on iOS. On Google, it's kind of easy. You can see still everything, but obviously as soon as the iOS changes happened, the Android became more expensive because bigger companies and even smaller companies, they didn't know how to react, so they dropped all the spend on iOS and moved all the spend to Android. What does it mean? It increases the CPI because the competition increased and the budget was just shifted towards the Android. So like all in all, everybody's talking about how UA is dead. That's why I kind of started with that. It's not. It's just changed, and it's going to change all the time in the future. We just need to change our kind of processes in our heads and how we look at things. And it's going to be hard. So it's not going to get any easier. So it's current landscape. It's tough. CPIs are increasing always, but then the times when you had one or two big channels like Facebook, Google, or something else, and you were running like millions on these two channels and nothing else, that's just gone. You need to diversify, have more channels at the same time running, which creates another like headaches and stuff like that. So yeah, pretty much summarizing all, it's hard. Not going to get any better, but I love it.
Yes, because Matej helps companies overcome the carnage that has become UA, and that's how you make your money. So I guess the more complex these things get.
Yeah,
exactly.
I have more work. Since the iOS changes happened. But of course, like the thing is, if you're a big company and you need to make the changes in the game, that's hard and it takes ages. If you're a small company and you are flexible and agile, you can make these changes, then you win. Easy.
So feel free to correct me, right? But this is the way that I see it. Before ATT, which is App Tracking Transparency, which is the IDFA deprecation, was the thing Apple did that made everything so hard. It was on a very granular level. You could pick a user and see what games they played, how far they got in certain games. And I guess it was an easy way to get deep insights, a lot of data on users. So you could match a user with a game that that they would like and had a high likelihood of spending into.
That's one way of looking at targeting options. But yeah, okay, pretty much.
Okay, and then what happened then is because you now have less granular data, you can't follow the user inside the gaming experience. It becomes harder to match users to certain games, certain experiences, and so the effective cost per install for users. Well, I would say the LTV of users becomes lower. So the amount of money users spend becomes lower because you're not necessarily matching them with the game that they like. And and on top of that, the cost per install increases because you're showing ads of games that they potentially don't like.
Yeah, so the targeting options are now kind of limited. It went from, let's say, targeting interests, building these audiences, lookalike audiences. So you take a set of users, your high-paying users, and you create a lookalike audience you want to target. So it's audience that's very likely to be similar to this audience. And so this almost gone. So now how you target people these days, it's either you use different types of creatives, so different motivations you kind of put into the front and center of the creative. That's one thing. And the second thing is the events I mentioned earlier. So tutorial completion, purchase, I don't know, whatever, achieve the level 25, 30, 50, whatever, something. These are the events I'm talking about. So because these events can eventually be used in campaign optimization. So I run a campaign on Facebook. I want to target up event optimized campaigns. So I put level 25 in this campaign optimization. What does it mean for me is that Facebook is going to look for players that are more likely to achieve this within my game and show them ads. Then these different events bring different types of users and different audiences as well. So if you use then purchase, it's going to be very different than, let's say, level 25, because eventually level 25 is the goal. Those players are going to be acquired. If the purchase is the goal, obviously that's a slightly different audience.
Appreciate that. Any questions, Phil, Devin? I have some follow-up questions, but want to give you guys a chance to comment or ask anything.
Yeah, what are the main strategies you've seen on the ad side to adapt to this new reality? Because I think something we hear a lot about is a lot of game genres that have historically relied on advertisements are just trying to become more in-app purchase friendly, and that's one way to get around all the changes in the advertising landscape. But specifically within ads, how are people reacting and adapting to the new reality?
So I mean ads revenue based games, right? Okay. So it's kind of hard on that side, but some attribution providers, which is Adjust, Upslayer, or Singular, so let's go a little bit geeky in here. So you use for the iOS campaigns conversion schema to be able to actually capture the events on the first 24 hours. So I usually use revenue schema, which uses purchases as the main event. Easy for the purchase campaigns. With ads, you can actually, let's say in Singular, you can combine the ads revenue with in-apps revenue. And in that case, that can help you with the campaign optimization. So I'm trying to send as many events as possible in the first 24 hours. That's the first day. And even in these changes or after the privacy changes happened, there are some tricks that you can use to actually increase the number of percentage of opt-in players so they can actually share the IDFA, because it's not gone. It's just up to the user or the player if he or she want to share the IDFA with the company. There are different things, like you can use different messaging, different visual styles, stuff like that to improve the opt-in rates. And as soon as you get pretty nice threshold of the opt-in rate, which I'm hearing now, it's still 40%. It's not 10% or 15% or whatever was discussed before. 40%, it's not bad. And some ad revenue-based games kind of improved it to 60 to 70%. If you are on that level, then not that much actually changed for you as a game. Of course, it requires a lot of work to actually get there.
Do you think this affects games that are doing like that's kind of bait and switch advertising? Like the pull the pin kind of things like that, where they're just like spending a bunch of money on this sort of bait and switch stuff, and then can't the same way see like how well that works and things like that. Like I wonder if it affects those at all.
Oh well, it affects those as well, but they kind of overcame this with these fake ads, because with using fake ads and then using these fake elements in the game afterwards, they create some kind of illusion for the players, or like the expectation flow is almost brilliant. You see fake ad, then you see fake screenshots, and then actually in the tutorial you see that fake creative. So then you land in the game and it's like, oh wow, this is great. So I've been reading Reddits for Hero Wars, and there are some players that are still like trying to get the pull the pin puzzles in the late game, and they're just commenting, oh, I'm really looking forward to see those puzzles again. It's like, dude, like that's not gonna happen. It never happens. So with these fake ad strategies, you are actually going really broad because it's really fake. So you are kind of achieving really low CPI, so the funnel is really wide, and then eventually you have higher chance of getting payers afterwards because you have like a higher pool of users that are getting in the game. So like fake ads now, I would never. I mean, I never. You never say never, but it's like these companies that are right now, like Kingdom Guard and Top War and all these games, Hero Wars as well, Mighty Party, X Hero. They're geniuses, seriously. Like, I'm so surprised like how they can actually earn, like they earned before using these fake ads, they earned like 50K monthly revenue. Now they're on like 8 millions a month. They didn't change a single thing in the game. They just added these fake ads into the game in between levels. Genius. Seriously. Brilliant.
Well, that's why I wonder if they with the inability to target as well, and them already having a super wide funnel thing, they actually almost have an advantage now.
Oh yeah,
where,
100%.
That's a strategy that's encouraged even more, because it's like, hey, if you can't target well anyways, just use this super broad funnel strategy to try and just shotgun everyone and convert them however you can. I know they kind of had to add some of that stuff into the game too because they got in trouble. Like where they're like, you guys don't have this in the game at all. It's completely false advertising. Like, well, now we do, and it's like,
now we do.
Okay,
yeah,
no,
of course.
Okay.
Exactly. So like we talked about machine zones. So they had also a shotgun approach with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, man, he was fucking everywhere. I opened up fridge. Arnold Schwarzenegger, almost every. So this
he just did like a World of Tanks one or something like that too, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so. That was very weird. Oh, I know. That was very like recent. I think like a few months ago, maybe. Yeah, that was super weird. That, but like Machine Zone, they had also this like shotgun approach, like to be everywhere, like bought all the impressions on all the fucking internet. So this is not as aggressive as that, but it definitely works. So I had like this random call from the random guys from Thailand, like, hey man, so thank you very much for crystallizing the fake ads like strategy, because we have a strategy game and now we actually implemented some like merging mechanics into the game, and we are trying to, because we tried to test it out on the creative side and it really decreased our CPI from 25 to 15. So now I was like, okay, let's try to A/B test it, and they said, oh well, it's working quite well. There you go, easy.
It always begs that question of like, why don't you just make that game, right? Like that like, why are you not just making that then? I mean, it's such a weird, like there's obviously reasons why you don't just, but it's like it's such a weird bait and switch strategy where you're like, let me show you this kind of crappy game that you might like because it's, even though it's stupid, and then put you in like potentially a better game, but like we had to sucker you in with like the crap. It's almost like, candy in the back of a van or puppies or something.
Oh yeah,
people into the van, at that point.
So why you don't make these games? Because these games don't have the high LTV as the original games. So of course, like you are kind of the onboarding of the user is very like easy, and also the Kingdom Guard. So it's a 4X game, really like hardcore game. They have tower defense in the first 20 minutes of the gameplay. It's just tower defense. Oh, this is amazing, right? And then bam, you are in 4X immediately, and it's like, oh, when did this happen? Amazing, really, like this is genius. They're making so much money. So that's why they can squeeze the most out of the players afterwards.
I mean, I don't know how involved you are in like creatives and stuff, but like I notice a trend, for example, in lots of these ads, there's the idea of showing like the simulated player failing all the time. I mean, is that like a pretty persistent strategy in terms of like, hey, getting players to think I could do better, and that's why those are working?
The creative actually ends also with the headline, "Can you do better?" So that works quite well. So I have 10 motion designers in my creative team, and we use the fail creatives quite a lot. It works really well. And also these like different concepts, like these fake ones. Oh, I want to see this in the game. Creates illusion works. Or I want to save. Well, the royal match from Dream Games from Turkey, they use the save the king concept. Works well. Because, I want to save this king as well.
I guess it doesn't appeal to the people that would remove the ladders in the pool in Sims, right?
Pretty much.
So, Matej, how has the value accrual within the UA space of mobile games changed because of these the IDFA changes? I'm curious who won and who lost, and also I'd love to understand how the CPI and LTV dynamics have changed.
So, who won? I think the smaller, more flexible companies, because they can change the early metrics and also early tutorial funnel, FTUE, whatever, in the game, so they can capture more events and send it back to the UA channels. Also, some genres do better than the others. Of course, let's try match-free games. They usually monetize way longer payback period, so they don't monetize on day 1, day 7. It usually gets day 30, 60, year. So usually these companies, they are trying to aim for 2-year payback period, so in 2 years they're gonna get their money back. So the companies that are actually have shorter payback periods, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, they kind of see better results. And also front loading the monetization in the day 1, day 7, that kind of helps with overcome these challenges, because you have shit tons of events that you can send. Then optimization is kind of easier. In terms of the LTV versus the CPI, so honestly, before this happened, iOS always higher CPIs than Android, but also higher LTV. So the thing is, these high value players didn't disappear. They're still there. It's pretty much harder to target them, but eventually if you figure it out, then you're good. What happened multiple times on some accounts I manage is that the CPI on iOS is lower than the Android because of the competition I mentioned before. So I mean, right now it's great. So it kind of, again, helps the companies that can really make changes quickly, and then can open up different channels, because some channels or UA channels don't work that well with iOS than the others. For example, for me, TikTok, Facebook still works well. Google doesn't work that well, but it works super well on Android. So you need to have these information in order to adapt to what happened, and then life is easy.
It makes sense TikTok would work pretty well with just how good their algorithm is at targeting people for you. Obviously Facebook was pretty good at that for a while, and now they're struggling a bit with that, but TikTok seems to have, whatever their magic sauce is that works, seems to do really well for that. And I keep seeing the trend of TikTok ads being these big success stories for games.
Yeah.
Which I imagine at some point that becomes saturated, right? And that starts to lose effectiveness. And then whatever the next thing is, exactly, becomes the next big thing. But it's interesting to see that trend, because it's you didn't think of TikTok as an ad platform that way, in terms of for games, and now it's people are suddenly realizing it, and so now it's I didn't think of that as that, and now I imagine everyone's going to move over to it, and that'll be a big thing.
And also TikTok, for example, last year and the year before, everybody's we have early access to TikTok ads platform, and it's working well. Bullshit. It was working really bad. I mean, I tried TikTok a million times 2 years before, last year as well. Beginning of the year, crap. suddenly, like in the middle of the year, August, September, it started to work quite well because they also obviously worked on the platform and all these like algorithm changes and app event optimized campaigns. So you could actually run the purchase campaigns and even targeting value players and whales. That helped so much. So, like all these early days, like I don't buy that like, oh, well, it was working well. No, I don't buy that. So now it's actually good because so many people moved there in terms of the content and users, and also they improved quite a lot on the backend side. So now it's working quite well.
I'm curious then, like what like affect these other platforms that are trying to copy, say like like YouTube little shorts, similar to the like our Instagram Reels going to be suddenly a thing for these ads.
Of course,
like these other kinds of like platforms trying to do these short form content sort of things. Maybe you scan a QR code at the end or something. Might become like these platforms that are suddenly popular where people migrate to just because it's like.
It's really funny. Like, you always have these conversations with representatives from Facebook or Google, and they say, "Oh, well, like we have new placement reels." Like, yeah, sure. So you need to change this, and that, and then you're good. I was like, yeah, but I use automated placements, so it doesn't matter to me at all. I just put all the creatives there, and your algo do the job. It's like, yeah, but if you do this, then it's better. Like, no. Like, I tried and it sucks. Oh, well, they always try to push whatever is new for them. So I remember these like carousel ads and images. Like you had 5 different static images next to each other, and it's working really well for e-commerce because you see different products obviously there. And they try to push it to gaming like so much. Oh, this is the new best thing. Dude, I was so terrible. Then like, oh, you need to create the story and it needs to match, and it's like it's one great static image divided into 5. I was like, no. And then after like 2 years they finally dropped it, like, oh well, yeah, you were right, it doesn't work for games. Like, oh no shit, Sherlock. We see that on the numbers, come on. But they were pushing it so hard. So
salespeople.
Yeah. That's how it
I'm
works.
curious then too about the lack of what seems like a lot of competitors with the Raid Shadow Legends strategy of like sponsored video content and stuff like that. That like was Twitch and YouTube and like or if you want to call it the NordVPN or Audible strategy, like those ones that are just kind of like so much penetration with that. But I don't see a lot of competitors
because it's expensive.
Like YouTube Premium, so I see no ads, but I see that sponsored stuff still, right?
It's really expensive, man. So it's these influencer strategies, of course it works, but I use it as let's say an additional UA channel, so not as a main pillar of the strategy of the UA strategy, because you can't scale it that much, because you are eventually going to run out of the influencers that can actually promote your content. Of course, if you're Raid Shadow Legends, you can work with Jeff Goldblum or whoever, like different celebrities, obviously. But it's really expensive. But you can afford it. Smaller companies, you can see these cooperations here and there, but it's more like Instagram, YouTube here and there, Twitch not that much. So, but yeah, it's there, but you can't compete with Raid, unfortunately.
And have you seen all these changes to UA impact the way that game developers are thinking about structuring games to make them more broadly appealing, broadly applicable, so that your targeted advertising is less relevant in a way? And maybe that limits whales in some way, where you find your most passionate audience, but on average the users you reach are probably going to be interested in that type of game. So
I've definitely seen this shift, and we discussed it actually with Jakub on our last week's live session in Barcelona, 2.5 gamers. So there are these games already, like Fiona's Farm, Frozen City. They actually have not one game loop, but multiple game loops and multiple, I would call it even games within one game. So you have, let's call it Frozen City. It's idle game, and they have Animal Warfare, which was like a hyper casual game built within the game. So if we are waiting for the timers, which is usual for idle games, then you can do the fighting, and then you can do something else. The same thing with Fiona's Farm. You have the match free there, you have the farming, you have multiple different things. And this actually gives marketing department really interesting opportunities because it's not fake anymore. So you can use these different game loops and show it in the creatives. And I mean, obviously, it's really hard and long process to get here, but this is going to be the new normal. So first you run different creatives and see like what kind of game loops work the best in terms of the CPIs, then you build it in the game. So then afterwards you build the game and then you can actually use it without being called like, hey, this is fake, this is misleading. Because
could that be
have
the future of like hybrid casual stuff where people look to have multiple games within a game? Like, you obviously hyper casual struggles right now, right? But like they're looking for ways to add metagame stuff to it. It's like, what if the metagame is cramming a bunch of games into one, like the old 500 games in one kind of game things or stuff like that, as a way to then hit multiple targets based off the creatives they see, rather than, because like the strategy before for hyper casual is like, let's pump out a bunch of stuff and see what sticks, right? But you're talking about kind of doing that with the creatives and then maybe even having those things then in the game.
Afterwards.
Micro games within it. Like, is that a way to then retain these users so they don't leave that game because they have other games to play within it?
Yeah, because then you spend more time in the game while something else. I know, like you're cooking a pie in the game, and then
timer-based stuff. You switch.
Yeah. When that happens, then you can actually do whatever, like building mechanic if you have it, or just farm, or just gather resources or whatever. So this is definitely going to be very important, which then puts UA in front and center of like the game development, because you need to test these things out. And you need to understand like what works and what kind of audiences you are actually getting with these different mechanics and different games. It's going to be super like interesting future. Not only of the UA but also like the game development as it is.
I mean, we see a lot of that in Web3 right now with the hyper casual ones, where it's like a platform with a bunch of different games and stuff like that. So I was curious if that's like bled down into Web2. For like, I know Web 2 is not the best term, but you know what I mean. In terms of like, actually trying to, because everyone's talking about hybrid casual and stuff like that, and moving into that. So
the hybrid casual is it's been a while since that term was coined, like a few years now.
Right, but Voodoo is obviously like a big proponent, for example, of pushing that kind of direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. They're opening like different departments, casual, mid-core, now Web3 as well. So that's why also they said on the at the PGC in January, like, oh well, hyper casual is dead. It's like, sure, yeah. Oh, when hyper casual big publisher says that, I guess that's right, that's true. And then I talked to some like internal people from Wood, like, hey, man, this is like pure PR and marketing. It's like, yeah, I know you're opening new departments, so you want to get more developers. They're like, yes, pretty much. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, of
course.
Is that
like when Gabe said free to play is dead?
Yeah, I can read between lines. So, but yeah.
I mean, it seems like
that's how it works.
It seems like there's been two main approaches from a lot of the big hyper-casual players. One is just by swimming upstream towards that mid-casual, mid-core genre to try to get people to engage for longer, and again, shift reliance from ads to in-app purchases, because people are more willing to pay if they're engaged in these games for longer periods of time. The second is maintaining the hyper-casual game loops, but ensuring that when the users churn, they churn to their other games. And that's what a lot of the Web3 strategy seems to be, is let's try to get you an asset that you actually care about taking from Voodoo game to Voodoo game. Because even if you only stick with this title for 2 days, if you're going to churn, we want to make sure you churn to another one of our titles. And then 2 days later, you go to another one of our titles, and they just keep you in their infinite loop, even if the game
That's why we see so many game
change.
Platforms. Ecosystems.
Yeah.
Love it. Ecosystems, platform. Platform is fine. Ecosystems, when I hear ecosystem, is like, shit, like, why?
It's usually when it's too ambitious, they use that word.
Yeah.
It also feels to me like the ecosystem play or the platform play, for me, these often are the same things, or they're used interchangeably. It feels to me like in many cases it is the only way, like more casual games make sense with Web3. It's like, why would there be an NFT or even a token for this super simple hyper casual game? The only way it makes sense is as there are multiple hyper casual games. So if you have a character in one, and that's an NFT, you can take it to other games similar with tokens. So yeah, I would say that it's again like shoehorning this technology, which we've seen quite a lot of.
But it's weird though when you think about like say like in the arcade model, right? Like because there was that pocket full of quarters like thing that they did too, like where they were trying to do their ecosystem thing. But like if you take the idea of like earning in one game, right, and spending another, you don't go to an arcade and play a machine and get tickets and then shove those tickets into another game in the replacement of tokens, right? Like it's always like whittling down to cheap, crappy Chinese prizes. You're not actually like able to then move it to another game per se. So it's like obviously not the same kind of model, but it's kind of funny to see that like rather than go with the model of let's give you useless NFTs or something as your like prize, they're trying to give you tokens which just end up inflationary. And say like imagine if you went to play like a crane game or one of these kind of like ticket games and it just dumped out a bunch of quarters in the end. And you're like, cool, I'll just go play other arcades with that. Like that doesn't seem like a very smart model, but suddenly when you put Web3 on it, it seems smart.
Yeah, if you put Web3 label on almost everything, like, oh, suddenly it works. Like,
it's genius now.
How?
No one's proved this hasn't worked yet.
Yeah, true.
That's why I'm like, let's see some analogies. You can see why it obviously won't.
Yeah, pretty much. But Philip, to your point about from hyper casual moving to let's call it hybrid casual or whatever, like Say Games, for example, now they posted some results like how they improved quite a lot on the revenue side as a company and also on the download side as a company when they're trying to move more towards the IIP monetization rather than just in-app ads. And that growth was incredible. Like they are crushing it.
Yeah. And like I think one of the most interesting case studies of a well-performing company that's done a good job of avoiding all these pitfalls has been Supercell, and they just posted their annual blog.
Let's not go there, man. Let's not go there.
They just posted their annual blog later, and we're talking about now wanting to potentially change even platform expansion.
Of course.
So it does seem like by avoiding ads, they're now kind of immune to a lot of the pitfalls that their competitors are dealing with today. And so who knows, maybe while other people are trying to address these kind of core business model challenges, they'll be able to do more interesting out-of-the-box innovation over the coming years. And so I'm curious to see if there is kind of like a divergence of mobile players based on how much time they're having to almost look inwards or go backwards to try to fix core problems in their house versus say, hey, we're just going to take what we're doing and expand it and extend into other categories, other areas, and experiment in new ways that mobile hasn't really done in the last few years.
Yeah, they also have one game in soft launch which has ads in it, and now they're going to hire for ad monetization specialist, which never happened before. So I guess like there's been also like earthquake within Supercell, so they need to change the strategy quite heavily. And these blogs, there's huge respects to Supercell and the CEO, but this is just fucking PR, and I can't read it anymore. So, yeah, let's not go there. I could rant for hours.
Fair enough.
So, Matej, you're telling us that you turned down their job offer? That's what's happened?
Yeah, because they wanted me to move to Helsinki. I said no.
No. Bratislava for life.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
nah.
of course.
Of course. I mean, like I can be anywhere in the Europe in like 2 hours. What do you mean? It's really true.
Including Helsinki, or
including Helsinki. Yeah, in Helsinki 2.5 hours. So
if you want to get from Helsinki to like the south of Spain, which is where you actually want to be, it takes you a while. So yeah, I get it.
Oh.
I get it.
It's 1 hour 50-minute flights from Vienna to Barcelona, so that's easy. It's really easy.
Nice. Yeah, and Bratislava is right next to Vienna.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So 20-30-minute drive to airport it's almost nothing.
Perfect. Amazing.
Yep, pretty much. So I'm not complaining.
So Matej, you mentioned fake ads before.
Yeah.
What's has there been any punishment for companies doing fake ads?
Are you able to see all
does
the
that
fake
mean no?
ads? Yeah, that means no. Like,
okay.
Like why? The thing is, like, why would Facebook, Google, any other ad network ban these advertisers? Because they are earning so much money out of it. So much money out of it. So they always, like they said, I think 2 years ago, oh, well, fake ads, not going to happen. We're banning it. Facebook, bam. Nothing happened. And it's not going to happen. The thing is also with sexist ads. So there are like so many weird concepts, abuse, rape, and even like right now, like there's one interesting concept, let's call it, women farting in men's face. And it's adopted by like 5 games. It's really weird. And when you try to actually submit this for like a ban, they say, "Oh no, this is fine. This is fine.
It's just a fetish.
We reviewed. It's fine." Like how is this fine? So it's not gonna get any better. So no ban, and in the near future, it's just never happen. Not gonna happen, unfortunately. On the other hand, they can't ban them now because you have all these fake elements in the game as well. So you are kind of okay after all. Mm. But the thing is, like with these fake ads, like you can actually call CGI, 3D, really like interesting high production value concepts as fake.
Because that's true.
They're not showing like the actual gameplay.
I mean, look at any E3 trailer, right? And it's the same thing. So.
Yeah, pretty much. So I think that's fair. Back in days when I was at Pixel Federation, so we had a train station game, which was 2D platform game where you collect trains. So we had one really really amazing 3D trailer, and we put it in the ads. And man, you should see those comments. "Oh, this is not like any of the game I played afterwards. Wow, what's this bullshit?" Like, seriously? So yeah, been there. It's crazy.
The final question I have for you, for me, before IDFA deprecation, it seemed like the whole UA was figured out, and it was a existing playbook, and it felt like because of that there was very little innovation, and everyone was doing the same thing and following each other. It feels like now there might be a bit more room for creativity and dynamism. Do you see us converging towards a solution, a solved game and a fixed playbook again? Or do you think, in terms of creativity, the limitations on targeting users and tracking users are actually a good thing?
It's a good thing. Well, of course, I love all these changes, because then it puts you in the corner, and you need to get and try to find a way how to get out of it.
They need to call you.
Of course.
Yeah.
100%. But then I think I would argue like there wasn't a playbook, or there was like almost a playbook. Things changed on the platform side. Facebook actually copied the Google algorithms and all these black boxes. So that was like a interesting times for UA managers. There was this meme that actually like 2 people, one like very geek guy, and these like different text like, "Oh well, I'm trying to run tens of thousands campaigns and bidding and moving and trying to optimize." And then there was this like guy like, "Oh, 2 months I didn't even look at the campaigns, algorithms took care of it, still profitable." So there were these times when you didn't really have to do that much, and obviously with IDFA change, like that ended. It kind of ended. So the good old days, or not good old days, but like a few years back, that changed. And now the Google is doing the same thing as iOS did. So they're moving away from the GAID, which is the Google Advertising ID. They're doing it a little bit more developer friendly. So they're actually talking to companies to find the better way how to do it, and not just say like, "Oh, now it's done, figure it out." So that opens up again, like you said, a lot of room for creativity. You need to find like loopholes how to make things happen. What do you need to change? And it's still evolving. So there's this, like I mentioned, the conversion schemas that is called SCAN. Now we are moving towards a SCAN 4.0, where you will have more, let's call it, evaluation data points for creatives, for campaigns, and it's not going to be only day one, but also like multiple days, which creates again like another complexity on top of what we were used to years ago. So yeah, it's going to be even more fun. It's great. Busy is always better than just doing nothing. So I guess it's all about the learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
Me, when I talk about the iOS changes, I'm always positive. I maybe too much, and it can be annoying, of course, but it's great. I love it.
So you spend your time within the Web2 gaming crowd way more than Devin, Phil, or myself. what is the current take on Web3? I feel like I've been positively surprised about the narrative where people are not shitting on it that much. Maybe it's because the shitting on it was a sort of allergic reaction against all of the shilling of it. You know? What's your view?
So pretty much, I would say Web3 UA in the hype days was all about building communities, which obviously is a great thing. You should build communities around your game that can definitely help, but it's not a scalable solution. So right now, when the hype ended, now you actually and the games are more closer to being finalized and actually being launched, then you need to use all these like email sign-up campaigns and all these like different types of campaigns to actually drive traffic to your page, to your social media, email sign-ups, whitelist, whatever. And then we are coming back to the actual Web 2 UA because it's the same thing. You use TikTok, you use Google, you use YouTube, you use maybe Twitter a little bit, but now it's actually banned for Web 3. So, and then you use Facebook. And that's the same kind of like UA channel mix that I use for mobile games. You just need to think about different tracking solutions, different campaign optimization. So I talked about the purchase or the event optimized campaigns. You use then conversions from the website, which you then track back to campaigns. You then need to have Facebook Pixel or Google Analytics or Mixpanel or whatever segment on the web. And it's the same thing eventually. So now you uncover these things and figure out like, okay, so community is fine, but it's not scalable to millions. So what do I need to do? Let's look at the Web 2 UA.
Let's call Matej.
Let's just put a Super Bowl ad. Yeah.
I'll run a Super Bowl ad. Yeah. Easy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just curious too, like, and how that, if there's like thinking around the UA when it comes to user targeting because of wallets and some financial transparency that exists that doesn't exist in Web 2, and whether or not that's like something people are starting to factor in, even for games that are primarily Web 2 games but have maybe a Web 3 component or something where maybe you could go, hey, my game's not even that much of a Web 3 game, but maybe this is a good audience for me to target and I can see the whales and stuff like that.
Sure, but then like the wallets IDs, it's kind of against the privacy issues, right? So
yes and no, right? Like because like obviously there's tons of ways to encourage people to connect to their Discord, to connect to their Twitter, to connect to any other social element. People do it all the time where it's like, if you want to win this free NFT, you've got to connect it to your socials and tweet. And like there's all these ways to get people to opt in and opt out of the privacy. And I'll be honest, like the majority of users are not going to care about privacy down the road until it, like unless it actually affects them, say for IRS coming after them or something like that. So I imagine that will be something like that will become maybe part of a UA playbook in the future.
It's going to be very interesting. Like if people actually find out these like workarounds, like how to use the wallets to actually target people on different channels, that could be very valuable.
There's companies saying that they can do that, right? That they can like supposedly we have like millions of socials that we know exactly whose wallet it is, and I don't know how true that is, but there's people already like definitely throwing money at that problem.
Of course, yeah. This is the same thing as when I talk to companies and they say, "Oh, we have this idea for game." Like, yes, you have this idea now, but you need to think of like 10 other companies they're all already building it. So I was like, really? And yeah, of course. So this is the same thing. So there are definitely companies actually building this, and I know about one company just based in Barcelona. They actually have this like wallet ad network, whatever, and I guess it works, but I haven't tried it before. But in this times when you don't have that many targeting options, you try to leverage whatever it's out there.
Well, I imagine too, like even stuff with like KYC and stuff like that, you start to have ways to force people to tie to personal information. Or let's say you have them buying a physical thing with their crypto, and now they're tying it to their home address where they're mailing it to, and like there's so many ways to incentivize people to volunteer that information. I think.
Oh, of course. It's actually that kind of happened, I think, on the mobile side. But then, if you read through the guidelines, it's you are on the iOS side, you are not actually allowed to incentivize people.
And that's what blocks it, right? It's just Apple and Google being gatekeepers, right? So
exactly.
If we open that up, because web doesn't really have a platform yet, like the internet, like there's plenty of Wild West tactics that I imagine will like get cemented over time.
Of course. So I'm in the industry for 10 years, so I remember there's like this like browser to mobile change, and then like everybody's like, oh, well, browser is dead. Now it's like we're getting back to web browser. Like, oh, well, there's so much untapped potential in browser. Like, we should definitely be there. Like, come on, it's ridiculous, but it's true. It's true because then from web you can do so many creative things. How to send people actually to mobile apps, to mobile web, whatever, and then like connect everything together. Brilliant.
I think as soon as Apple, like Apple Pay stuff has crypto, MetaMask tied to it, kind of crap, then it's just over. Mobile wins at that point.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mobile will always win, I think, when it comes to games.
Well, I mean, if you look at the geography of the world in terms of like distribution of people and the main computer they use, I think there's a reason why mobile wins.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the conclusions we can draw. The other conclusion that we can draw is that, at least in the long term, the more like as things change with crypto, we'll still always revert back to traditional UA methods because these are irrespective of technologies that underlie the different games. Right?
Yeah, games didn't invent advertising.
Layers. Sorry?
Games didn't invent advertising.
Yeah, exactly. And we might do a little bit, like a few more very shitty ads during Super Bowls, but apart from that, I mean, it's all going to stay the same, and Matej's still going to have a job. I think that's what we can conclude from this.
Yeah, pretty much.
This
it's just
hour.
Going to change. It's going to change and evolve. That's how it is. I heard UA is dead like millions of times in my career.
Not the full 10 years. And Still rocking.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Good. All right. This was amazing. I gathered a lot of insights. I do feel like I have to listen another time to make sure I absorb it all because there was a lot of things going on. But hey, thank you so much for joining, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. It's a real pleasure.
It's great. Devin, Phil, as usual, you guys are amazing. Thanks for joining. And listener, you are the most amazing of all. Thank you for listening. My editor asks me to tell you to press that subscribe button, the notification bell, and all that good stuff. If you're on Spotify, feel free to give us a rating. If you like what we're doing, let us know. Join the Discord if you haven't already. We also do weekly town squares where you can ask questions. We've been doing some pitch review sessions. So if you're an early stage Web3 founder, even a Web2 games founder, and you want to get us our feedback on either a pitch deck or on the pitch itself, let us know. We can set that up. We've been doing that. It's been good. It's been really helpful, I think. I get to learn how Phil looks at decks and the other way around, and it's been good. So, all right. Matej, Devin, Becker, Devin and Phil, thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day, and let's speak together next week. Bye.
Peace.